First off, what's your reaction? I mean, we still have the Frugal Four, and here in Germany, the AfD against the idea of shared debt, but it seems that the big players are on board.
Yes, certainly. As you said, I think we'll have to see what happens in terms of the negotiations. But I think the announcement in itself is good news. We've seen a lot of support from central banks globally. I think fiscally also it's good to see governments also starting to get behind here and try and support various industries that have been impacted here. So look, overall at a headline level, I think this is good news. We'll add further to the optimism that we're seeing in markets as countries start to emerge from lockdowns.
Good morning to you, Richard. Do we have the necessary urgency coming from the EU on this? I mean, the leaders are going to be meeting on June the 19th. Then, as Matt was saying earlier, Angela Merkel suggesting that there isn't an expectation that this would actually be ready to be enacted until 2021. And that's if all of the votes in the meantime go in the right direction as far as she is concerned. Is there a lot of hope built into the market's expectations around what the EU can do in terms of burden sharing?
So I think we've seen, certainly from other countries in the US, for example, announcements of large stimulus packages. I think in Europe it's been taking a little bit longer. It's been a little bit frustrating to some extent. But look, I think we're starting to see progress here. And I think that it's a bigger picture that's going on right now, where you're seeing countries emerging from lockdowns, activities starting to pick up again. And I think that, as and when you see these aid packages also coming through as well, I think will further add to the optimism that we're seeing out there. So, look, I think at a headline level, as I said, I think it's good news what we're seeing.
And do you think it's a real turning point for the European Union? I mean, does this crisis help the European Union become more of a federal institution with shared debt?
So, I mean, from that perspective, we'll have to wait and see. But I think you're starting to see now a realization, actually, of the necessity for this. And I think also at an individual sector level, you're starting to see stimulus packages for, obviously for airlines that have been severely impacted, for the auto industry. We had that announcement of the big stimulus package, for further development of electric vehicles, etc. So you're starting to see that sort of filter through now as well at a sector, which I think has implications as well.
And Richard, does it make sense then that, given what you've said, overarching positives around this, and at the big picture level, this does look to be a positive development then for the European Union. Given that, does it seem sensible for risk assets to go higher? Obviously, we heard about a lot of this yesterday, but does it make sense for risk assets to go higher on this, despite geopolitical tensions raising their heads between the US and China? At the moment, European investors seem to be putting that to the sidelines.
Yeah, I think the moves you're seeing in the market, I think to some extent reflect how skewed positioning was, right? So if you look at the sectors that have been outperforming, it's been the ones that have been most heavily impacted. So areas such as travel and leisure, some of the financial banks, etc. So I think what you're seeing in some ways is that rotation as we're starting to see countries emerging from lockdowns, people trying to find companies that can benefit as this activity resumes. So we think to some extent that will continue. I think the key for us remains whether we do see a second wave, because that's the key risk that's out there. Obviously, there's a lot of optimism right now, but that we have to sort of temper that with the potential of a second wave. Also, the US-China tensions, as you said, that have sort of been simmering for a while, that are going on in the background here. I think, the comments from Mike Pompeo there certainly are concerning. So there's certainly reasons to be more optimistic, as I said, as countries do emerge from lockdowns. But I think that does need to be tempered somewhat with what we're seeing elsewhere.